Hello, welcome to Levant TV headlines. Starting with Syria, where President Bashar al-Assad says the Islamic State group has been expanding since the US-led coalition began its airstrikes on the group in Iraq and Syria last year. In Iraq, the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has arrived in Baghdad for talks with the Iraqi Premier Haider al-Abadi and other top officials. A series of airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition shook Yemen's capital Sana'a overnight and early morning as dozens of families fled the capital seeking safety. Negotiations over Iran's nuclear program have entered a critical phase, with differences still remaining less than 2 days before a deadline for the outline of an agreement. And former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert has been convicted of unlawfully accepting money from a US supporter in a retrial on corruption charges. Now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines in papers there. Starting with the Egypt Independent, which leads reporting that Egyptian Prosecutor General Hisham Barakat has ordered the listing of several prominent Muslim Brotherhood leaders as terrorists, including Supreme Guide Mohammed Badia. The paper also reports the results from Nigeria's elections, potentially the closest contest since the end of military rule in 1999, are due to start trickling in after a weekend vote marred by confusion, arguments and sporadic violence. From Lebanon, the Daily Star leads reporting that Foreign Minister Gibran Bassil says the Lebanese government does not wish Hezbollah or the Future Movement to side with either party in the Yemen conflict. The paper also reports that assault rifles, rocket-propelled grenades and ammunition were confiscated following a Lebanese army raid on a house in Tripoli, as 4 people were wounded in 2 separate overnight attacks. From the United Arab Emirates, the Khalij Times leads reporting that Arab leaders have agreed to form a joint military force after a summit dominated by a Saudi-led offensive on Houthi rebels in Yemen and the threat from extremism. The paper also reports that a team of daredevil jumpers will plunge from 99th floor of the Princess Tower as part of a global dream jump happening for the first time outside Europe. Now let's have a look at papers here in London. The Telegraph leads Middle East news section reporting that Turkey has partially closed its 2 remaining border crossings with Syria amid fears of a possible terrorist attack. The Onkupina and Çilveguzu border gates in Hatay province were initially closed on March 9th after clashes in northern Syria. And in The Guardian, news about former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, which has been found guilty of accepting bribes in a retrial on corruption charges, the latest chapter in the downfall of a man who only years earlier hoped to lead the country to a historic peace agreement with the Palestinians. Also from the UK, the Independent teenage boys armed with rifles lead 8 prisoners to be beheaded in the latest gruesome video released by ISIS. The victims are said to be Shia Muslim men in the Central Syrian province of Hama. And now international papers. From Berlin, the Deutsche Welle reports that foreign ministers from 6 nations plus Iran have begun a last round of talks a day before a deadline on a deal over Iran's nuclear program. The foreign ministers of all 6 nations, the US, Russia, Germany, Britain, China, France and Iran, said there is a chance of succeeding by Tuesday, despite the significant obstacles. And finally, the Washington Post leads reporting that Saudi-led airstrikes shook the Yemeni capital for the 5th day as rebels pressed south towards the port city of Aden. The bombing campaign against the Houthi rebels and their allies continued to target fighter jets, air defense systems and missile launch pads, as well as the presidential palace in the capital. That was it for today's headlines. For more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.